Well, with everything we're now experiencing in the Isle of Man, I'm delighted to be joined by Kriss Parker, who's in China. Kriss, you've been watching our broadcasts and what's been going on here in the Isle of Man. Of course, you know much more about this whole thing and how it's been affecting everybody. In fact, we could start with that because I know you also have concerns of what could happen here. But how's it been for you? Are you in a safe place? Have you been right in the epicenter of this? I mean, has your lifestyle been completely changed?
Yes, it has. I mean, the way we live has definitely changed. I'm currently based in Tianjin, which I think is one of the safest cities right now in China regarding the coronavirus. As this started, I was in Xi'an, which is where I work primarily, but my family and where we stay is in Tianjin. Tianjin has been a great city. They've dealt with it very well, but I've had to support colleagues and friends who are based elsewhere in China who have had to deal with more serious situations, especially in Wuhan.
And are you locked down, or are you allowed to go out and socialise? Was it still that sort of thing of being self-isolating?
So we do need to still self-isolate. We can't just go to crowded public areas. They are monitoring shopping malls and parks about how many people can enter certain areas. Cinemas are still closed. Anything that maybe is more confined is definitely still closed.
Okay.
The government here has done a great job of implementing measures. So we have to carry around ID cards, your passports, and also your mobile phone. They've implemented a database system where everybody is issued a color code, and that color changes depending on your recent entry into the country or your activity within the cities. So for myself, my color code is green, so that allows me access to pretty much anywhere. I can go anywhere within the city, but if your color happens to be orange or red, that means that you've recently traveled either into the country or you've been to an area that has a high risk of the virus. Okay,
well, you've been following us on PMC-TV and you got in touch because you're concerned possibly that things here aren't happening fast enough, and you've obviously learned from experience. So over to you. What do you think is not happening here in the Isle of Man that should be happening?
I mean, from the beginning, this virus has just been spreading like wildfire. And though I understand, even for myself being in here in China, once the news was released to the world that this thing was spreading, China took extreme measures to deal with the situation, and yeah, it impacted everybody's life. I mean, cities here are the size of countries. I mean, the current city I'm in Tianjin is 15 million people, and the measures they implemented to everybody was extreme. People couldn't leave their house for days. You just couldn't get water or food in the supermarket because they had to control this thing. And seeing what's happening right now on the island and knowing that there are cases now coming to light, the island had plenty of warning, advanced warning to take measures, proactive measures to reduce the likelihood of this happening. And I know people back home, and I know the government are trying their best, and they've got their advisors. But having seen not only from friends, but also my own family and colleagues who have had to deal with this directly, both within different cities in China and especially Wuhan, this could have been, avoided for the island, where if we took the measures to protect the island and its residents sooner, the island could have continued as normal. We could have had shops stayed open. People wouldn't be out of work. Pubs and restaurants could continue as normal because we would have a strict procedure in place to monitor who's leaving and who's coming into the island. But that just hasn't taken place at all. Right,
well, we're recording this just about an hour away from the 4 o'clock press conference this afternoon, which has been a warning triggered to us by the Health Minister, David Ashford, that things are not going to stay the same here. Life is about to change because obviously things have changed now here with the first outbreak concerned. We've got shots up at the TT Grandstand and people are now having testing, which of course has not exactly been, I think we had 50 odd tests so far, but that's now going to drastically increase. Any advice for people on the Isle of Man? I mean, would you say completely self-isolate? Should there be no people coming on planes and boats and things like that?
Absolutely. I mean, if the island can self-isolate as an island, I mean, that's going to be the number one measure. And I think that's something that, if not this evening, they're going to announce. They're going to announce it soon, as more cases come to light. I mean, try to trace down social activity from even one patient is an extreme task. I mean, the amount of manpower needed just to try to follow who has been where and in contact of what. I mean, one person that's got this virus that may have even just gone to a restaurant or taken the bus is going to take days, if not weeks, to try to track down everybody. And if you multiply that by even just 10, 20 people on the island, it can just get out of control, and the island just doesn't have the resources to cope with that. So I recommend for everybody, please isolate the best you can. Definitely keep yourselves clean, wash hands frequently. I know there's some advice going around, wash your hands every 20 minutes, and that's just not needed. But wash before you eat, wash before you sit down with your family. When you enter your home from outside, wash your hands. Change your clothes from when you've been outside to inside. Just simple things that you can do easily that will make a big impact to both yourselves, your family, and others around you.